Looks like we have a great crowd tonight. Tonight's meeting is not a regular council meeting. This is a committee meeting. But we begin our committee meetings like we do our council meetings with a word of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like, please feel free to join us. Mr. Hawks, can I get you to pray, please?
Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the opportunity to be in this great city. And Father, we pray that you will continue to hold your hand over it and bless it as you have for these many years. Father, we pray that you be with our decisions tonight. And Father, I pray that you will guide them to the best interest of this city. I pray that you'll be with us in our spirits, Father, and that we keep civil and peaceful minded. Father, we thank you for all that you do for us. We pray all this in Christ's holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight, first of all, two things. No action will be taken tonight. No votes will be taken. This is open discussion. And second, we will open the floor to the public. With that being said, the chamber will present two topics this evening. One, the sales tax collections within the region and how they are changing. And two, ways sales tax proceeds could be used to grow the tax base. This time I'm going to ask Mr. Jamie Gates from the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce to come up and speak.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if people are here to hear me sing tonight or not, but I'm not going to. That's a promise. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jamie Gates. I'm with the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce, and have worked with many of you and many of the people in this room on topics very closely related to everything. I don't think we're going to make a ton of news, but depending why you came, you may find out some new and fun things. And all we're talking about is really just taking a look more broadly, a look beyond the city's borders. I thought y'all had a meeting recently, and Tyler did a great job just explaining how crucial sales tax is to the operation of a city. I mean, it is not the only source of revenue, but it is the one that moves, and it's the one that drives city government and the way cities look and feel. What we were asked to do is let's look outside the city, because that is becoming more and more relevant to where our sales tax comes from. So we are going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about sales taxes, which nobody loves, and we're going to talk about Conway, which everybody loves. And if you don't love Conway, I hope that you find a place that you do love and move there. I mean that genuinely. We are here to talk about a place that we love, and I think that everybody in the room is here to do that. This introduction was going to get me roughly to my first slide, which I'm not seeing right now. Nobody look at my password. All right, so we're also going to move backward and forward in time a little bit. We're going to look back to 2020. We're going to look back fondly at 2020 because some things that did take place. We did a lot of citizen outreach that had been planned ahead of all the things that were not planned in 2020. So there was a citizen survey conducted by the city that's also been updated, I think, in 2022. We conducted Conway 2035 in 2020, and we're kind of at the mid-course correction, revisiting some of those ideas. So we're gonna look back at some of that information and some of the ideas that were generated through those two processes and surveys. There's been a lot of progress, and there's still work to be left. But we're also going to ask everyone to look forward 10 years. I mean, we're headed for a future, and what is it going to look like when we get there? In large part, it is in part up to circumstance and providence, but the people in this room, not just elected officials, but citizens, can help shape that future. I mean, if we didn't believe that, we wouldn't put this effort into it. So I want to look at a couple things. The quantitative, that's the numbers, fancy word for numbers. So a comparison of how Conway local sales tax compares to its peers. We'll be talking about the 20 largest cities in Arkansas. And then we want to analyze local sales tax collection trends. And the trend of the trends is that there is rapid disruption. The way we have been able to do business, the assumptions we make about people in our trade area, they're changing. They're kind of, those old models are falling apart and somewhat quickly, and we'll go into that. Next, we're going to talk about the qualitative. It's not just a numbers discussion. Very frequently, it's hardly about numbers, and it's all about outcomes and the qualitative. And I don't think I'm making news here. How tax dollars are spent matters. We need to think about two things. We need to consider the economic impact. If we put $1 in here, it's possible to do things where you pull out $1.05 into your local economy. You can bring other people's money into the circle. But the other thing is resident benefit. Not everything has to turn a profit, especially with communities and local government. And there's a lot of things that we're not going to just look at as capitalists and, well, we could make more money if we did this. There are things that are important to people and drive decisions. Not all decision-making as a family or a consumer is financial. A lot of it's emotional, and we want to talk about that. So some projects and programs can grow a tax base and attract new visitors, residents, and jobs. But we also want to be very transparent about what we believe. Funding essential services and infrastructure is where you start. It's not where you stop. That's the stuff you're supposed to do. That is everyone's minimum lowest common denominator job. The idea of meeting your essential needs and then stopping is not something that we tolerate when we send our kids to school. It's not something we tolerate from coworkers. It's not something we tolerate from teammates when we're on a team. I do want to, we can all maybe think of that model. If you've ever watched like a 7th grade basketball game, there's the kid that's taller than everybody. And because he's taller than everybody, he doesn't jump to get a rebound. And as you watch the rest of the kids kind of grow and you watch things change, you know how that story ends. That taller guy who's not jumping for the rebound, well, now everyone else is jumping for rebounds, they're getting him. And then they're getting taller. Keep that model in mind because things change. Our circumstance a few years ago can change beyond our control, and then the outcomes become different. So this is a really relevant chart as we have this conversation. Again, this is that cohort of the 20 largest cities. This is the local sales tax, city and county. We don't have control over what the state charges. That's everyone's base. In some places, when the county sales tax is large enough, it is shared with the cities within that county. And so you see that. So you have some places in Northwest Arkansas, for example, they're receiving a portion of the county sales tax. In Faulkner County, the city's not receiving a portion of that because it's a lower sales tax. And so if you can't find us, because you're usually used to looking for Conway at the top of a list, we're down there at the bottom, just highlighted us. We are the 18th out of the 20 largest cities. And so you see what our local sales tax rate is. So I did say that sales tax is not the only way cities are funded. So we did take a look at property taxes. So we have those top 20, and we were 18th on sales tax. We said, let's look at what the property taxes are. We're 17th. And so when you look at that, let's look at Little Rock, 2.125 sales tax. A couple things are working for Little Rock there. One, the trade area for Little Rock is in some ways statewide. I mean, obviously the closer, it makes more sense, but they have a monopoly on the capital, some specialized health care, some federal government functions. They also have a monopoly on some retailers, luxury brands, some stores where a market the size of Arkansas is just going to get one. So they got more people coming in, and they're getting away with a lower rate. But the other thing goes back to that figure on property taxes. The city of Little Rock charges 400% more in local property taxes than the city of Conway. And that equates to a 40% higher property tax bill if you live inside the city of Little Rock. And a property tax, I shouldn't have to remind you, is paid by the residents of the city. Sales taxes, about half that revenue comes from the residents of the city, and the other half comes from non-residents. So A lot of good and fair arguments to be had about equity and taxation and whether a consumption tax like a sales tax is more fair or less fair than an ad valorem tax. What most people really want to know is who's paying, how much of it, if it raises $10 million, how much did I pay? How much did somebody else pay? I mean, we do love to deal in chamber at the OPM, other people's money. And that means economic development is taking money from outside the circle, which is Conway, and bringing it inside the circle. You know, there is much value in us trading money with each other. You know, shop local, let's support each other's stores. But economic development comes when we bring people from out and we bring their money in, and then they can leave and leave their money here. Maybe they're going back to that place that they love. So, all right, two things to keep in mind. Rate, tax rate, that's what that chart was. Had our local sales tax rate. That is determined by city government and the people who live in the community. The rest is the base, and you could call this our trade area. So clearly that includes Conway, but it also includes the communities near Conway. Our tax base includes visitors from afar. It includes the visitors who come, you know, if I don't get it out, it could be our visitors from afar. It could be visitors from a flood. I don't know, either one. The trade area, everybody who comes in to work every day, but also we have Interstate 40. And then we have people who come for baseball tournaments. We have people who come for healthcare and for higher education. We all understand that. What has changed and where the disruption comes into place is where they pay can change. So we've always talked about our trade area, healthcare, labor shed, really kind of Maumelle to the south, Russellville to the west, 167, the BB, Searcy, and then the lakes, you know, everything north of Greers Ferry Lake. That was kind of our trade area. And for a lot of goods and services, if you lived in that circle, we would say that we had equal claim to you. Now, because of online and some other things that are changing that we'll get into, where they're paying can change. And I would say that we got to change with it. So the sales tax economy is being rapidly disrupted. We've identified three things that, again, are disrupting the old model, the old assumptions that we made about sales taxes. So one, changes in the regional brick and mortar retail landscape. Big box stores are coming out with different and smaller footprints, and they're going into smaller communities. We benefited from it for a generation, and now, you know, they did it with us, now they're doing it to us. But we looked at one example, Academy Sports opened in Searcy. So this is another reason we went through this exercise. We've been flatter in decline for sales tax receipts in Conway this year. So let's try to figure out the cause. You know, is it the economy? You know, is it consumer sentiment? Is it any of those things? Well, when we look around, we see that Cabot's sales tax collections are up, Russellville's are up, Searcy's are up, ours aren't. They're not doing any better economically than we are. What's changed? And I would say, if you go back to that previous slide, what changed is the where. It's not the spending, it's the where is the spending taking place. So looking at Searcy, we'll look at Academy Sports because that's a very easy code to track when we look at sales tax collections. Looking at January through May this year, Searcy, for the code for specialty retail, hobby, and sports, they were up about $6 million. They were up 100% versus the previous year. During that same period in Conway, in that same code, we were down 1.2 million. Sherwood, who is an equally, if not more convenient alternative for Academy Sports for people living in Searcy and White County, they're down 3.3 million in that category. So, you know, what changed? Well, the regional brick and mortar retail landscape changed, and there's more of that coming. Searcy is going to open more big box retail. Russellville is going to get an Academy Sports, and we won't be sharing that loss with Sherwood. We'll be eating that one whole. Changes in regional visitor infrastructure. So not just the stores. New sporting facilities, new amenities, things that are designed to bring people into your community. Looking at Cabot, hotel collections, the first 5 months of the year, they were up 60%, which was $1 million. Conway was down 15%, which was 1.5 million in sales. Is that all because of Cabot? No. But they're a part of the mix. And it's also showing that people traveling to Conway aren't tightening their belts, but people traveling to Cabot are spending willy-nilly. It's showing that the landscape has changed. And then finally, online shopping. I said this was the moment where we started out looking for one thing and we found another. And we're looking for these kind of conspicuous retail projects without the region. And then we zero in. And I said, this was the moment, if you've ever, in the horror movie cliche about the call is coming from inside the house. This one hits close to home. Because as we look at, and there's all of the sales tax receipts are by NAICS code, and we looked at 4541, which is essentially pure mail order and online. And so Amazon is going to live in that one. And just to remind everyone, where you receive your good is the tax rate they're going to apply. So if you live in Greenbrier, they're going to apply the Greenbrier sales tax if you order from Amazon. If you live, in Morrilton, they'll apply the Morrilton sales tax rate. No other rate but where you receive the good. We looked at December, so Christmas shopping, kind of that last month, I need it, I want it, got to have it, of 2024, and we looked at December of 2022. Let's give a little gap and see if this is a real trend. How much ground have we covered? Just looking at Greenbrier and Bologna for that one code, online shopping up 40%. County as a whole, up 26%. Conway, up 3.5%. So what changed? Amazon has been very conspicuous about this. We can't take on Walmart and not go to Walmart shoppers. We can't take on Walmart just doing same-day delivery in the 15 largest cities in the country. We've got to be nationwide, and they've done that. The delivery times are dropping, the same day is dropping, and you start to imagine and understand, I live outside of Conway, I come to work at Conway during a prescribed work break, maybe I do a little online shopping, I buy it, and when I get home, it's going to be on my porch. That's pretty compelling. And that's not someone shopping on sales tax rate. They might be shopping on price, they might be shopping on product, but Greenbrier and Bologna both have higher sales tax. Why are you shopping online? It's higher. Well, because everybody understands all of the compelling reasons to shop online, and it's not going away. What is a little scarier is when you think about that person that lives on Lake Beaver Fork is not a City of Conway shopper anymore. The point of sale is it's Faulkner County, but it's not City of Conway. And I think for a generation, it was safe to assume someone that lived 5 minutes from Conway would do most of their shopping or all of their shopping in Conway. Well, those assumptions are less and less safe. And I can tell you when you look at the scale there, that December for Greenbrier, the online orders were it was larger than grocery. So this is not some sliver of the economy. I think it's their second largest single category. So the sales tax economy is being rapidly disrupted. And what is clear when you look at all of these cities that are on the incline, and while we're flat or in decline, that it's not the business cycle. This isn't the canary for a recession. This isn't, somebody's experiencing a recovery and we're not. This is a shift. It's more like the decline of print media or automation in manufacturing. It's not going away. This is how things are going to be. So if we do nothing, what is happening is going to continue to happen, as that's true in taxes and lots of other things. Good news is we have the capacity to do something. So it's easy to come out of those last few slides with a scarcity mindset or some sort of passive or my fate is sealed mindset for cities like us. There are places where that is the rational response. There's places where feeling that way just makes sense. And it would make sense here if we were a city in decline, if we were lacking potential, or if we were topped out on taxes. But none of those things are true. We're not topped out on taxes, and no one is asking to top us out on taxes. We're 18th. We have given a 10-yard head start to every other city in a 40-yard race, and we are doing fine. We are getting we've gotten lots of rebounds for most of our 7th grade season. We might have even been the leading rebounder, but no one's asking to top out on taxes. We're not in decline, and we're not operating from a position of weakness. Top left there, best places, U.S. News and World Report. That's the highest score we've ever received, highest we've ever been ranked. It is bittersweet. I don't like 89. I don't know what kind of medal that medal is, but I don't like it. But it's still, we are climbing up into a quality and caliber of city that people notice. And we know, because it's a data-driven process, where our deficiencies are. It's not cost of living. It's not economic opportunity or job creation. It's not rate of growth. It's, we had a category on within quality of place. There's a category on arts, culture, and entertainment establishments per capita. Within quality of place, there is a category measuring the college readiness performance of your public school district. It's no secret that we've been working very intentionally with the school district on that issue, because we are trying to surgically tackle this, and not so we can get a lower number and have something to put in a PowerPoint. It's because surgically tackling the things you're deficient in is how you get better. We want to get better. Back-to-back fastest growing city in Arkansas in 2022 and 2023. We're not in decline. We're not shrinking. What's changing? Well, where people are spending the money is changing. We're adding jobs. This is the announcement for Clayton Homes, but you could say the same about West Rock Coffee or a number of other recent announcements. The other good thing is the community has provided us clear direction. The citizen survey, City of Conway, we ranked all of the things the city did. What's your level of satisfaction? Culture, arts, and music activities got the lowest score on that survey. When we did, in roughly the same time period, we said, what areas most need to be included in a strategic plan for the city? Number one, arts, entertainment, and culture. We've asked people, and they're telling us, you know, I said, you go back to that 7th grade rebounder. The community is saying, jump, jump. What we don't need is someone in the crowd saying, be taller, be taller. You know, we don't need to go back to the old model. We need to follow the advice and direction of our citizens. So, back to this chart. Highlighted cities, they represent the median. Out of the top 20, the median rate is 3. I've got kids in middle school and junior high. I believe that is also the mode. That would be the most frequently appearing single number. Am I right there? Drew's shaking his head, yes. So I don't know what the average is, and that's not as important because we have to deal with 8s. But so let's just, as a model, let's think about median sales tax rate and what does that look like? Because it looks very different in a lot of these places. We have a different economy than most of the cities on here. So let's just see, this is just an exercise, what a median sales tax rate looks like in Conway, Arkansas. If Conway collected the median rate, we could have a public safety capital fund that would pay for police cars as the inventory ages out. We can bring in another year's police cars, and we can plan for, purchase, and count on funding for fire trucks and fire apparatus. We could have a street maintenance fund. How many people in the room knew that 3/8 of a penny rolled off of our sales taxes 2 years ago? This is a pretty informed crowd. I'm not going to make you raise your hand if you didn't know that. That seems tacky. But It did. Our sales tax was 3/8 of a cent higher 2 years ago. So conservatively, we have collected $12 million less in sales taxes for street maintenance over that period. And I'll acknowledge there's benefit to having more money in people's pockets. It's personal benefit, there's economic benefits. But what also happened, if we go back to that knowledge that half of our sales tax is paid by people who don't live in Conway, we also failed to collect sales taxes from $6 million in sales taxes from people who were here visiting, were here passing through, or just don't live here. And they came here, they drove on our roads, and then they left without paying to the tune of $6 million. And another quick point on street maintenance, deferring maintenance does not save the city money. That is why we adopted that tax in the past. We can keep letting the list get longer, and when we build a project, we can let it take longer, but you will not save money by putting maintenance off on a street. And if Conway collected the median rate, and these are not examples of this is for the remainder of the presentation. These are not examples of the one or two things we could do. Everything tonight will fit inside a median rate sales tax. So 3 cents local will do everything tonight. So we could do the Public Safety Capital Fund, a street maintenance fund, and an infrastructure fund. You know, there are barriers right now in our community to housing that have to do with infrastructure. There are barriers to bringing new companies to town that have to do with infrastructure. We have filled a ton, thankfully so, a ton of existing real estate, existing facilities, and new acreage on manufacturing. The cupboard is bare. We will have to develop new sites. Also, thankfully, the timing has been providentially fortunate that Conway Corporation was able to participate on projects, that the city has been able to participate on projects, and we get the infrastructure in place ahead of the company. There are constraints to Conway Corporation's ability to have access to cash. They have bondholder requirements on how much money they have to have on hand. So if the right project came around at the wrong time, we would have to say no. And that begins the spiral. And that is a thing that happens all over the country, all over the state. And just as a side note, when we're asking Conway Corporation to bear the cost of infrastructure, that is on the ratepayer. That's the same as when we don't ask visitors to pay sales taxes. Well, when we say that that's paid for with our utilities, well, that's only our house. What about the people who work here and then go away? They're not participating in that infrastructure, but they are benefiting in the job and the employer and all of those things. So all of these programs, I would say these are essentials. Doing these even well is not a mark of excellence. It's competency. It's what we should expect and it's what we should do. But it is not where we should stop, because I think everyone should do their best. I think we should give ourselves our best chance at success for the future. So we're going to move into things that are different than these funds, but still fit within the proposed rate, the model rate here. If Conway collected the median rate, we could build best in the region quality of place amenities. And these are those things that were identified in the survey, the 2035, where they were telling us to focus our attention. Something we've called the CAMP, Central Arkansas Music Pavilion. This is a facility that is a peer to the Walmart amp. If you just want to understand it, if you've ever been to a show there, it's as easy to mentally compare it to that as anything else. Central Arkansas will get one of these. Who's going to have it? I don't know. We could do it. The economic impact study, all the looks at this, 200,000 visitors in year 1, 350,000 visitors in year 7. Lake Conway North Shore Boardwalk. This is an opportunity. You know, I think we ignored the potential of Lake Conway for a generation or two. I think we're looking at it with fresh eyes. This was a study that our organizations did in concert with the city council. The feature is 2 miles of boardwalk through Lake Conway on the north end. So this is near Caney Creek. We'll have another picture, but 90 seconds from Sam's Club and Academy Sports and Hideaway Pizza, you'll be able to park and walk out 1,000 feet into a cypress glade. This is lowest barrier to accessibility. You'll be able to push a stroller out there. This would attract on the same level of Pinnacle Mountain. If you've ever been on social media, I don't think, if you get to the top of Pinnacle and didn't take a selfie, I don't think it counts. But no doubt this would be one of the most photographed places in our community. It would also be visible from Interstate 40. I added another picture because it's really cool. This is the only one I have 2 pictures of because it's that cool. That is Caney Creek. So the Caney Creek boat ramp, if you know where that is, would be just below the frame in the drawing here. Grand Theater. This is an idea that has been floating around. It's been out there for a few years. 320-seat historic theater. It was a theater before, a live theater when it was built. Then it was a movie theater. This is at the corner of Oak and Chestnut for folks who have just been driving by it for 20 years and never knew. But we've taken benchmarking trips. We've taken people from the community. The Franklin Theater in Franklin, Tennessee is an excellent example. That is the marquee at Franklin. The Franklin Theater is the most photographed spot in Franklin, Tennessee. The economic impact statement here, 21,000 visitors in year 1, 27,000 visitors in year 5. The Farmers Market Pavilion, these are some highly conceptual drawings, but that paved stripe on the bottom is Parkway. Again, we are just talking about what's possible here. We have 2 functioning farmers markets right now, and we have 0. It's kind of odd that we have 2. It's especially odd to have 2 and have 0 infrastructure or facilities to host a farmers market. And I think for several of these projects, we're a city of 70,000. We're still growing. At some point, we will cross a threshold of being a city that no longer exceeds people's expectations and starts to not meet them. It's like, oh, I thought a city y'all size would have had a farmer's market. Oh, I thought a city y'all size would have had a convention center. A lot of cities where I'm from, 50,000, and we have a convention center. Right now in Conway, Arkansas, city of 70,000 people, the largest event or convention conference that we can commit to hosting kind of in that market setting seats about 140 people. So we're not a player. There's rotating conferences, Hot Springs, Rogers, Jonesboro, Little Rock, but we don't have the facilities for that. We did do some economic impact studies on the convention center, 52,000 visitors in year 1. Again, OPM, bring money from outside the circle into the circle. And then the idea of downtown parking in District Court, there's a twofer there. We've got some people who have to be parking downtown. They're parking where maybe we could be buying some fruit one day. But the idea of combining that facility, solving some downtown parking issues, and building those infrastructure. And again, including all of these things into that model of what could fit inside of a median rate. So all of the essential service funds fit, all of these projects fit. And I'll just say, last year, we did an economic development strategic planning process with EY. And part of that process was looking at 11 true peer cities around the country. They all existed within a large MSA. They all had a higher education presence. So they were very good benchmarks. Out of that list of 11, we ranked 10th in net migration of working age residents with at least a bachelor's degree. So to cook that down, our peer cities, while they were attracting a higher earning workforce, we were losing ours. To cook it down further, when some of those people left, they took somebody's grandkids with them. And so instead of picking grandkids up at elementary school, maybe you're driving to see them, or maybe they're coming back. That's what this moving and retaining and attracting is really all about. So again, if we in Conway collected the median rate, we could build best in the region quality of place amenities like a Central Arkansas Music Pavilion, Lake Conway Boardwalk, Grand Theater, Convention Center, Farmers Market Pavilion, downtown parking deck, new district court. We could meet our public safety capital needs, fund street maintenance, fund infrastructure that's going to create jobs, create housing, create opportunities. But more importantly, we could meet our potential. We could lead our region. We could build one of the country's great small cities. We could attract and retain students and residents, and we could build a city our kids and grandkids want to live in. I would ask everyone who cares about the community to ask themselves these two questions, not just the council. I would ask everyone, being intentional there, who cares about the community. Where will Conway be in 10 years? What decisions and actions are most likely to create a city that attracts and retains the next generation? We don't have control over our future, but we do have influence, and we are not helpless. In fact, we are pregnant with potential. And so we just need to really think about and answer these questions. In light of those truths, what are we going to do? Where do we want to go? What should we hang our hat on? And so with that, we've got about 9 pages of numbers and facts and figures that complement some of that. We're going to make those and this available to everybody, but I would assume that there are some questions, and I'm available to take them kind of as y'all direct.
Thank you, Jamie. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Gates? Thank you, Jamie. At this time, we will open the floor to comment. If you would, try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes. We have a very large crowd here tonight, and try not to repeat something that's already been said. We would like to invite both sides, but those that are for, that would like to speak for this, and those that would like to speak against. So when you come to the mic, if you would, just state your name and your address for the record, please. At this time, the floor is open.
I'm going to eagerly kick us off. My name is Jessica Crum. I live at 7 Fernwood Drive. Shout out Shelly and Drew, my representatives. Thank you. All right, I'll be brief. I am a local business owner, also probably known by this group as the Arts and Entertainment Cheerleader of Conway. I know I'm very vocal about the arts and my passion for the arts. I think that embodies live music and cultural events, all the things. So I think most of you know that I own a local business here and founded Create Conway, the organization behind the Conway Art Walk. That 2020 survey that Jamie talked about, I was definitely a part of that and involved in the arts section. And later that year started the foundation that, or the nonprofit that runs Conway Art Walk. So our group, our board was definitely eager to help solve the problems that were voiced by the community. The mission of Create Conway is to amplify Conway as a destination for arts, culture, and entertainment. We've been doing the Conway Art Walk for 4 years on a very scrappy budget, I will say. And it's grown to 1,500 attendees. We're really proud of that and very grateful for the community's support. We've tracked that the average spend based on the Arts and Economic Prosperity Report nationally is $31.27 per attendee. So if we multiply that by our 8 events each year, we're able to bring in over $375,000 to Conway. So I just want to echo Jamie's sentiment that bringing in a music pavilion, Grand Theater, Convention Center, Farmers Market, anything that brings in visitors who are patroning an event that has, arts, entertainment, culture, those visitors are likely to spend $31.47 on average. So the potential of A&P revenue is pretty exciting. And that excites me even more because I think that all of these bits of infrastructure need management. And I think we all know that our A&P management has been run by one staff person for many years, thanks to the A&P's grant to the Conway Chamber, where Rachel is able to run that budget. I'll say, knowing that Art Walk exists only because we have a staff person who runs it, that level of event, monthly consistency, the level of partnership with other organizations, it just wouldn't be possible with volunteer management alone. So we have one full-time staff member, and then of course we have our Vista members who also staff that event. But the salary required, I think, is something to consider in the way that that we'd be able to bring in more A&P revenue through these amenities. It might help our A&P commission to level up staffing, and I think that's probably the best fit to staff stuff like that. Experience Fayetteville, for example, has a hotel, motel, restaurant tax of $5 million a year, and that's the 2024 number, versus our 4.7 million. So it's not too different, but the Experience Fayetteville staff is 14 members and ours is 1. So I just wanted to vocalize, yes, I am pro, and I love all of the creative amenities this would bring to our city. I think my generation wants to see this type of progress in Conway, but also just want to vocalize it would be worth creating some sort of agreement with A&P on how we're going to staff these types of amenities as well. So that is all I have to say. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Ms. Crum. Someone else?
Tyler Winningham, CFO for the city. I just wanted to make one quick clarification on the online sales. I checked, I don't live in the city limits, but I have a Greenbrier address. And when I order online, I pay the Greenbrier sales tax. So I think the residents that live around Lake Conway, around Lake Beaverfort, between here and Bologna, if their address is Conway, they should still be paying the Conway sales tax and that being remitted to us. Now, that's not to say Jamie's numbers are wrong, because we've seen it ourselves that our excuse me, our sales tax collections are going down.
Mr. Winningham, I believe, and David, maybe you'll know more about this. I believe there's 2 different sales tax rates. There's inside the city tax and Conway address outside the city, is my understanding. Patty is nodding at me, and I know I paid different tax rates. I know my QuickBooks tax codes were different, so maybe that's the difference, but I don't know where the dividing line is or what share of that we get and what we don't based on if it's in or out of the city limits. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, when you make when you make an online purchase, you just put in your address with the city and the zip code. So I'm not sure how. Maybe the address gives them enough information to do that, but so yeah, I was not aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Winningham. We all know your name, but you still have to say it.
I'm Mike Coates, and it's a privilege to be here tonight. And I could say I've had some intimate experiences for the last 20 years. And I would like to thank a lot of the people here for the success of downtown and how much it's brought to Conway, brought to us. It's obviously very important to me. I try to go to nearly every table every night, and our new guests from my restaurant that I'm experiencing, they're coming from Little Rock. They're coming from Russell, but they're coming to Conway. And I've also been someone who's probably not been on the popular side of parking very often in my life. I've always thought we had to have more parking, and that would certainly increase downtown. It would certainly bring some dollars into this. And so, and getting to be on the A&P commission, I'm very humbled to be able to say how much I've seen that help Conway and stuff. And I just want to encourage people that we got to keep growing. We don't need to be at the bottom of anything. We got a very strong, vibrant, but it can be better, and it can be better as we reach more than medium range. And that's all I want to say, but thank you, and thank you for the success of what we've had, and they're wanting to come. People are wanting to come to Conway. I visit nearly every table. I see them coming from all over the country. How Interstate 40 brings a lot of folks into our town, and the more we can do to encourage, the higher Conway can go. So thank you, and it's been a privilege. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Grace Rains. My address is 34,000 Oak Circle. So I appreciate the opportunity tonight and for you guys being here. I get to run, I have the privilege of running the Arnold Innovation Center and the Conductor here in town. And so I get to work with a lot of the small business owners here in our community. I think I share Jamie's sentiment about data. So when I look at decisions like this, that's the first place that I like to go. And so when I was looking at kind of how I felt about this initiative, you know, a lot of the data was clear that investments like this one, you know, around cultural venues, public spaces, downtown infrastructure, they have strong economic return. And Jamie alluded to that a little bit, but I brought some stats to back it up because I couldn't help myself. So according to the National Endowment for the Arts, every $1 spent on cultural infrastructure generates between $5 and $7 in local economic activity. Walkable downtowns with public spaces and accessible parking can increase retail sales by 20 to 40%. That's from the Urban Land Institute. Every $1 spent at a farmer's market generates $1.60 in local economic activity. That's more than most chain grocery stores. The National Main Street Center reports that for every $1 a city invests in downtown infrastructure, $4 to $6 in private investment follows. And then every modest convention centers can be found to spend, attendees of those convention centers can be found to spend $300 to $500 per day on hotels, food, and retail. So the types of projects that we're talking about bring more dollars into the community. And so the second thing I like to ask myself when I was looking at this was, where has this worked before? And so communities like Bentonville, Tulsa, Little Rock, Kansas City, and Springvale, communities that we lose people to, have passed similar sales tax initiatives to fund similar projects. And in every case, they've seen growth in tourism, economic development, and downtown revitalization. And so I'm not saying that just because it worked in those communities means it's the right thing for Conway. I get that, but we have to be honest about something, and that is that Conway is in competition. We're competing with those cities and others for residents, for talent, for students, for visitors, for entrepreneurs. And so in a world where people can virtually work anywhere, we have to be honest about what our community brings to the current and future residents and our visitors. And so just because we're the fastest growing community today doesn't mean we're guaranteed that title into our future. And so we have a group of 25 to 40-year-olds that have been working together to look at kind of what does Conway have? We actually presented to a portion of this council before and talked with you guys about the data that we collected from 25 to 40-year-olds across Conway. And overwhelmingly, they want to see these types of investments. These are projects that keep this generation. This generation wants places to gather. They want entertainment. They want to believe that Conway is moving forward. And so, of course, there will be residents that don't share that vision, and that's okay. But to those concerns, I'd like to say, you know, we should let the residents of Conway decide. And so, you know, I would love to see you guys be innovative leaders who cast a bold vision for what Conway could be and trust your constituents to then vote on that. You know, it would be a shame for us to fear what someone might not want and keep us from asking what the community does want. And so I know this council values the voice of residents. That's why we're here. That's why I'm having the opportunity to talk to you right now, is because y'all value what people have to say. You've proven that. So I'm simply asking to just give us the opportunity to vote for it. I want to see Conway grow. I want to see it attract more talent, more entrepreneurs, and more opportunity. I want to see the amenities that reflect the fact that we're one of the fastest growing cities in the state. And I would love the chance to vote for that future. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raines. Yes, Ms. Grace, just simply.
Ms. Raines, first of all, thank you for your service to our community and what you do. Secondly, those statistics that you quoted there, I may have those, but if I don't, could you email those to
Yeah, I'm
me
happy to
or
share. No, that
us?
was just me personally, so you do not have those. They didn't come from anything in the
I would
packet.
like to see those. You
Yeah.
gave those rather quickly, and so if we could
Yeah,
circle
I will
up
shoot those over to
afterwards.
you today.
Yeah,
Thank
if you would you just email to all of us?
Yep, I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Raines.
Floor is open.
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
I am Caitlin Bailey with Cross Creek Sandwich Shop, 5721 West Rotor-Wise is my address. I usually don't stand in front of a group of people without asking whose team strawberry and whose team lemon, but I'll spare you that tonight. Y'all can raise your hand in a minute. But here's the deal. I wanted to come before you guys and just say that I would be absolutely for the idea of letting our residents vote on this type of a sales tax increase. I want the crowd behind me to do this as well. I just know that I can't keep turning around to look at you, but I want to ask some questions, and by show of hands in a second, I want people to respond. But Ultimately, I want you to think about this. Whenever someone asks you a question like, where would you recommend I go for a family fun weekend in Arkansas? What's the answer that comes to your head? Where would you tell them to go? If they asked you, where could I go see a really cool concert in Arkansas? Where are you probably going to tell them? If they said, where could I go for a really fun Saturday, farmer's market, lunch out, do some activities, come back home, take a nap? Where are you telling them to go? If they asked, where could I go to see something really awesome arts and entertainment wise, where are you telling them to go? For me, unfortunately, when people ask me that question, my answers tend to always be towards Northwest Arkansas. And I hate to admit that, but that is just kind of what I believe the majority of people in my generation say right now. On the contrary to that, when people ask me, what's a really good thing to do for date night here in Conway? Like I need to do it right now, date night. My answer is always, Mike's place. No offense, Mike. It's the best place to eat. But what else are we going to tell them to go do? There's not too many choices beyond that. If they ask me if I had 4 or 5 hours to kill because I'm in Conway for something, they're eating at Cross Creek with me, they want to know what can they go do for 4 or 5 hours before whatever their next thing is. Sometimes I stand around and scratch my head, and I'm like, boy, what can I tell them to go do? I mean, I guess you could run on down there to Simon Park if you want and check out the stage. You know, there's just not a lot that I can tell them. And none of that's a bad thing. It's just a thing that I think we have to consider, and we have to think about what are the people telling us that they want. So the thing that I want you guys behind me to do, I want you to think about this. How many of you, by show of hands, would say that you are a supporter of small business? Okay, I love it. I love that answer. Now, how many of you could name 3 small business owner friends of yours in this town that you want to see win and you want to see stay in business? Okay, I also love that number. What I thought about when I read through this white paper that got put together, I did not realize, and guys, this is my ignorance as a small business owner. I understand that when someone comes to eat at Cross Creek Sandwich Shop, that directly benefits me. And I'm so grateful. Please keep coming. But I did not realize how that impact also really impacts this landscape of the city because those sales tax dollars, when you start breaking that down, that's huge. The city needs me to stay in business and you guys to come to Cross Creek to see me win to make sure that the city can keep winning. This thing goes hand in hand. And I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to be funny. I'm sorry if it is, but those things go hand in hand. We need those things to work in tandem. And so when we do things like my family of 4 goes to Northwest Arkansas for a weekend to go see the Walton Arts Museum, and we spend money on an Airbnb, we gas up while we're there, we go to Walmart because we forgot pull-ups and we spend money at Walmart, we eat out the whole time that we're there, how much money is my simple family of 4 pouring into Northwest Arkansas when if there was something really cool like the Lake Conway infrastructure thing, that we could just stick around here and do all of that here, that money would stay right here at home. And that's what I want to see. The last thing I want to ask you about is just that same question that Jamie said. I wrote it down because I thought it was incredible. What decisions and what actions are most needed and most likely to create a city that attracts and retains the next generation? I think that we're on the cusp of something really big, and I would love to see us give the city the opportunity to vote for that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Floor is open.
Caitlin, I believe that Eric said they can come to Bell and Sword and kill as many hours as they'd like. So,
Would anyone else like to speak for or against? Okay. At this time, we will bring it back into the council. Like as I said, no action will be taken tonight. I appreciate everyone who has shown up and everyone who has come up and spoke tonight. The council will see, Felicia had to leave town for an emergency. Shawana, will this be something the council votes on the July or the August meeting? You remember, Jamie? I talked to, okay. Okay. Okay, all right. At some point in time, either July or August, this will come back before the council, and the council will decide what to do as far as moving forward. Thank you all for your time tonight. Council, we're adjourned.